Hey Chris, this is Chris Thompson. How are you?
Oh, good, Chris. How about yourself?
Doing great, doing great. Enjoyed the weekend?
Yes, yeah, I did. I hope you did.
Yeah,
Good.
for sure. Beautiful weather finally.
Right. So, what's going on?
Well, my own personal case was as I told you, just a disaster, a nightmare. My eldest son has been alienated from my life, and my youngest son's mother is working to do the same. So after my personal disaster was finalized, I set out on family law reform. And have you heard of SJ 22 with the state legislature?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well it's a family law reform. There's a committee set up to look at, the family law case and how they're handled. I've researched many here in Gallatin Valley, and you're the go-to man for, if there's any point of contention in family law, it's handed to you, it seems.
Yeah, I get some challenging ones.
Okay, yeah, and I know you're heavily involved in the system, and I'm sure you're aware that the system pits the parents against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And in my personal case, my personal opinion, result of this is the alienation of my children. I would guess that's probably a frequent result.
It happens usually, not well, in the overall spectrum of things. It actually doesn't happen that frequently, but in the cases I see, there's a much higher probability. I only get the toughest things.
Yeah, that's the way it seems. Is if there's any area of contention, the judges send it to Chris on.
The judges tend to, I think, respect me.
Okay, and I guess I'm really curious. I'm doing, like I said, I'm working with the state legislature to enact changes to prevent that. Obviously, this current system is damaging our children. And I'm just calling because I'm curious as to, your professional opinion on how best, what changes can we implement so this, the false accusations and tearing children from either parent, it's hurting our kids. How can we best change that, in your opinion?
Boy, that's complicated. The problem is that the facts from case to case are so different. You can't just, on a blanket basis, assume that there's alienation because, in fact, the rejected parent, there may be something that rejected parent is doing to justify the rejection. But you don't know that till you get it in there in a fact-by-fact basis. And, I've seen cases that were clear alienation, where there was an active campaign of brainwashing or otherwise influencing the child against the other parent. So I don't know how you can come up with language just because that's not what I delved into. So I don't know. That's a fuzzy answer. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. I'm of the opinion that absent any clear evidence, the children shouldn't be torn from either parent. But
I agree. There's tons of research saying that children do better with the active and consistent involvement of both parents. There's no doubt about that. And if there is some sort of a unjustified or false campaign to remove one of the parents from the scene of the child, well, then that's bad. But there's no doubt about it.
okay, but I'm sure you're also aware that my research, I've found quite a bit of, children being torn from one of the parents, just, the other parent saying, he threatened to beat me up or something like that. And, subsequently the children are removed from the other parent just with accusations.
Yeah, and that's where you need the judicial system to go in there and figure it out, because, false accusations are really easy to make, and they're difficult to disprove sometimes. So false accusations are horrible, but they're unfortunately, in highly contentious cases, not all that uncommon. I'm agreeing with you.
Would you say that people actually, in my opinion, my ex-wife's attorney appeared to actually encourage her to make false accusations and utilize, the various court systems to attack me, basically.
Well, that can happen. I don't know the facts of your case, so I can't agree or disagree with you on your particular case. But sure, that could happen.
I've only had one divorce. Hopefully that's the only one I'll have.
Me too.
How can we fix this? How can we...
It really helps if the family can afford to hire someone like me that's well-trained. I attend seminars all over the country. I read, I network on a daily basis about this sort of thing. It's a case-by-case thing. You can't make blanket assumptions that what the parent is alienating, because there in fact may be something, domestic abuse, legitimate domestic abuse or sexual abuse or something like that, that would cause the child to reject the parent based on real grounds. So, I just don't know how the legislature can come up with something that is specific enough to address the problem, but broad enough to reflect the fact that each case is a different situation.
Wouldn't it be advantageous, all due respect, wouldn't it be advantageous to remove the children from this situation in its entirety and remove unnecessarily involving, outsiders who have no, personal knowledge of the situation?
Okay, I got lost in that. So say that again?
Sorry. Wouldn't it be advantageous to remove children from the divorce courts in its entirety?
Well, it depends on the age and the capacity of the child. The older the kids get and the more cognitively developed and mature, the better. Their voice can be very important. It's their life after all. So you'd say you got a 14 or 15-year-old child who's lived their life. They are going to have a pretty darn good idea about what's good for them. Now, in most cases, their alienation is not involved. 80% of the cases don't need any. I'm making this number up, but a significant majority of the cases, the judge doesn't have to decide anything, because the parents can work it out in mediation. In fact, I'm mediating a case this afternoon. So to have the legislature say that the voice of the child should be eliminated would be a disservice to a lot of kids. But I get what you, if in fact there's alienation involved, then the voice of that child somehow needs to be explained, discredited, whatever, because that child is talking through a brainwashed point of view. I know of a case where,
What do you mean forcefully taken away?
Well, there was an alienated child who was so alienated that this child couldn't see at all. The child believed the alienation claims that the child was making. It was determined that, in fact, in the court, this is something the court can handle, that the court determined that, yes, this child has been subject of parental alienation, and the court ordered that the child be taken away, and it was actually against the child's will, to a facility to allow the child some space and time away from the favorite parent so that the child could get perspective and see what had gone on in the child's mind.
So
there are systems and programs out there that will help children who have been subject to pathological alienation by a parent, for them to, for the spell to be broken, so to speak. Did you follow that?
yeah, I mean roughly, but so the kid was taken out of both parents' custody?
Just not really out of custody, but it was taken away to a short-term facility in a different city to get a lot of education and counseling as necessary.
So
And then returned to the parent's care. I mean, it's not long-term, not like termination of parental rights. It's intense services that allow the child to, for the spell to be broken if there was alienation.
so I
What
mean,
I'm saying is there are programs out there that can help with severely alienated children when the court determines that alienation exists. It's difficult to figure out how to do it in the legislature. I kind of almost think it needs to stay with the courts because every case is so different.
well, but I mean, like that's astounding that a kid around here was removed from both parents' care. Like, who would instigate that, and why would? I mean, obviously it's
No, he wasn't really removed from both parents' care. He was removed from the care of the favorite / alienating parent and went away with the rejected parent to, it was actually a pretty expensive camp, if you will, to allow the child to see what had happened.
and I mean,
So, removed from one parent and teamed back up with the other parent when there had been no relationship with that other parent for quite a period of time because of the alienation.
so how do you? I mean, a case like this, how would you prove? I mean, would you meet with both parents and the kids? How would you go about researching this to prove that a kid's been alienated?
Well, that's it. That's kind of what I do. Is I have an extensive process that I use to investigate the situation and then come up with a report for the court saying this is what I found and this is why. It's a real extensive process.
Is that modeled after Dr. Warshak's deal, or is this your own creation?
Oh no, it's sort of modeled after best standards throughout the country.
Oh, so I mean, do you know like Amy Baker out of California?
I don't know her, no, but Dr. Warshak has referred a couple cases to me. I don't know him personally, but he knows me through my professional involvement with my main organization. So I'm networked with top people nationally.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. I guess I don't really have anything more. I'm just looking for answers, and like I said, you're the go-to guy in Gallatin County, and
Yeah, I think I kind of am. And, I'm sorry if I'm giving you fuzzy answers or answers that you didn't expect. But my experience allows me to see the bigger picture that, in fact, the vast majority of post-divorce custodial situations are not acrimonious in the long term. Most parents settle outside of court, don't have to have a judge rule, and I'm just, as a rule of thumb, saying using the old 80-20 rule. So 80% of the parents, this is not a statistically accurate thing, it's just a way to explain it. 80% of parents say settle it out of court with no reason for the court to make a decision. Just the court rubber stamps what they agree to through mediation or just working it out between themselves. The other 20 need some sort of help and some sort of guidance from the court. And even those, I'll use the 80-20 rule again, within 2 to 5 years, are in a pretty good workable situation where the children have settled into life post-divorce and they have it kind of figured out. It's just the bottom of the barrel that fail that's still even 2 to 5 years out, that's the world alienation lives in. And so that's a pretty small percentage of the overall cases. And when it happens, it's awful. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. It's horrifying. It's an injustice to the child. But to solve it in the legislature is kind of difficult. It kind of needs to stay in the courts. I'm trying to explain why I'm saying what I'm saying. When you look at it, the big statistical picture.
well, so I mean, even if it's just a few cases, it's these few cases need to be addressed, I think, and I guess I'm seeing a prevalence in my research of, it looks like, people are working together in the system to actually create contention.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, obviously that's not good for our kids, and it's squandering of civil resources as well. So, I mean, what's your insights on how to approach that?
I guess can you clarify a little bit? I got lost in the question.
Just how it appears that there's collusion between attorneys, local attorneys who, like I said, as my ex-wife did, manipulate the system and use area professionals and area resources to create a false picture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I guess my best answer is you need to fight back as aggressively as you possibly can. And if you can get an attorney to support you so that tricks in the legal system aren't played, and to present your case well, that's kind of what you have to do. And it's a horrible situation. Sometimes there are economic imbalances where the poorer parent really suffers. But I just had a case where I was involved, where one of the parents represented herself, and it really worked out. And the court looked at the whole picture and ruled in favor of the parent who's self-represented. And so just because you don't have an attorney, or maybe can't afford an attorney, doesn't mean you can't, represent yourself in court.
Okay, I mean, how do I word that? I guess you're aware that there's local professionals that work together frequently. I mean, I think it was Alec Baldwin that wrote that, the actual individuals in the case aren't important. It's the people who work together day in and day out.
Yeah.
It's more important that they have a working relationship than to serve the best interests of the individual children.
Mm-hmm.
What's your...
I can't say that doesn't happen. I mean, I've observed myself some alignment among professionals, and it's disturbing to me.
How can you stop
I like to stay neutral. I mean, in response to an earlier email you sent to me, I remember you asked about my ideology, and my response is, I really can't have an ideology. I have to remain neutral when I go into my cases. And that means I don't align with any attorney or attorneys. And sometimes they might like what I say, and the next case they might not. And I think that's the way it should be, that there shouldn't be a natural alignment between attorneys and other professionals, mental health professionals, guys that do what I do, the evaluators. I think it should be, in an ideal world, everybody goes in unaligned with their eyes freshly open for each new case to look at on the merits of the case.
So, I mean, what's your thoughts on how to address the obvious collusion that you spoke about? How can that? I mean, would the courts need to address something like that, or?
Yeah, that's what the court needs to look at. You have to say, okay, they're presenting this, but that's not the fact. That's not the way it really is, and that's the place to do it is in court, because the court has the power and often the insight to say, I'm not buying that, what that attorney and other parent says. I think that the story I'm hearing from, the injured parent is more viable, and therefore I'm going to rule in favor of the rejected parent, if you will.
Okay. Well, yeah, this has been very, very informative. I thank you very much for your time. Yeah, if I have any further questions, I would love to touch bases if I could.
Sure. Yeah, no, and good luck. I mean, and what I tell the parents is what I told you earlier. Unless there's some sort of abuse or addiction or mental illness or something like that, children do better with the active, consistent, and regular contact of both parents. And I applaud the situations where a rejected parent or a parent who isn't getting, the children aren't getting enough time with that parent to not give up, to keep on fighting for the sake of the children. And fathers are usually the ones at the short end of the custody stick, just because there was, and less so now, but a strong maternal bias in the case in the legal system, going back 20, 30 years. It's better now than it was. But, there's a study where, or at least one study, where college students were asked when they were children of divorce, what's the thing you regretted most about the fact that your parents were divorced, and the answer was not enough time with dad. So I applaud your efforts, Chris, and keep it up.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Chris, and
Okay.
I really appreciate it, and if I have any more questions, I'll touch bases.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, have a great day.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.